Welcome to the Mizells Show.
An inspiration for a new generation.
Hi, I'm Alana Mizell, a loving mother of two, a devoted wife to Steven, and an entrepreneur helping women realize their dreams and potential.
And I'm Steven Mizells, caring father of two, a devoted husband to Alana, and a driving force to help young men prepare for life after college football.
And if that wasn't enough, we're a biracial couple.
She was raised in the North, but I was raised in the South.
The only thing normal about our lives, who am I kidding? It's never normal around here. Join us for the Mizells Show.
Right now. We are back on the Mizells Show. Alana has a tea, so it's officially
We're
a
ready.
show.
I know, a mint tea.
A mint tea. Alana is like 9 days no caffeine, right?
I need to count how many days.
How many days have you had no caffeine?
All last week.
Yeah.
The weekend before.
Oh.
I've got to figure out the last time I had a Diet Coke, because that was the last bit of caffeine. It's been a month, almost a month since I had coffee.
So that's where we've been, guys. Like, oh, the Mizells Show hasn't been going on because Alana stopped drinking coffee.
Yeah, wow, I didn't realize how addicted to caffeine I was.
Yeah. I think the last time you had a Diet Coke was a Monday that you went to the office because you had literally packed it with you. So I think it has been almost
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks.
2 weeks today.
2 weeks from yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So on the Mizells Show, we talk about a number of things, and we recognize we've been gone for a little minute, but we're back.
And I feel like we say that on the regular. We have just been... I was actually thinking about this because somebody asked me how long we've been married. And I said, it'll be 10 years in March.
Yeah.
And I would say that this year 9 to 10
Yes.
has probably been the most emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
Emotionally taxing.
Yes.
But also the most we've probably grown together.
I think we definitely have grown together through everything that has transpired.
Mm-hmm.
With, you guys have been on this journey with us. There's been a lot, and we've been kind of an open book about talking about things in this journey. And the last year 9 to 10 has definitely been.
It's been a doozy.
It's been a doozy. Last time we checked in with you guys, Steven was fresh off of a.
Just the Steven in third person. You're talking about yourself?
Steven, yeah, me.
Or different Steven?
No, Steven was fresh off of a torn bicep. And that in itself taught us a lot, which we shared with you guys about our roles and relationships and how we have, kind of we use it to evaluate.
And I feel like anytime that there's a struggle, it gives you the opportunity to either do the woe is me or evaluate the moment. Yeah. And... So Steven's arm ended up taking essentially the back burner.
To the back burner. And it's something that, the Sunday after...
So you had surgery on Wednesday.
Wednesday. So that's Sunday.
The Sunday after surgery.
Alana took it?
If you haven't listened to all episodes, you can go back and listen to our infertility story. Yeah. So we've struggled with infertility. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Yes.
For me to have a long cycle is not abnormal. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to take a pregnancy test because typically when those say not pregnant, it then calms my brain down and I'm like, instantly, we come to. Joke's on us.
Joke's on us. She took the pregnancy test and she was pregnant.
Yes. And we say was because we're going to tell you the rest of the story. So that would have been baby number 3. Yes. And we were not prepared for that.
We were not prepared for that. And then with us, as Alana mentioned, you going through the conversation of infertility and kind of like we've been down this road before and also not preparing for this. We're like, okay, we're pregnant. Let's take the steps. We will see how this goes.
And on top of that, this is the first time that I've been on a depression medication. Yeah. And got pregnant. So we were like, well, I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, what does it look like?
I've also had 2 other miscarriages. Yes. So we know the drill. Yeah. We're not newbies. We knew we didn't need to rush to the doctor and get confirmation of the pregnancy. We just weren't worried about it.
Yeah, we just worried about it.
because we were just like, we're going to let this run its course. And there was never a time, I've told Steven this a million times, there was never a time that I was like, this is going to stick.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, never. And it's something that you are in tune with your body. And then, we haven't gone into great detail, but, Briggs's, we've kind of talked about that. Briggs's birth wasn't sunshine and rainbows. Mm-hmm. It definitely opened my eyes a little bit, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. It opened my eyes a little bit in terms of childbirth.
Well, and we did do Briggs's birth story way back.
Yeah, way back.
Like when we first started. Yeah, so it kind of opened Steven's eyes a bit into childbirth, but we just hadn't been on the same page. Like, did we want another baby or not? But instantly I was like, that's weird. That's not what I thought was going to happen. This isn't going to stick. It's fine. But through that, through the whole turmoil of like, well, what if I can't? What if it's not safe for me or for the fetus for me to be on the medication that I'm on and get pregnant?
Yeah.
We just were running through those things more than we were concerned about how viable.
Yeah, because it's something that we hadn't planned, and through everything, through Adele, through Briggs, through it all, my focus has always been Alana. Like, she is first. I love and adore my kids, but that's something that I think a lot of times people lose focus in these journeys. And so with that being said,
and we've seen it. We've seen that play out, and I think everybody has.
And so about a week after we had the pregnancy test, you were experiencing some huge
severe pain. Severe pain. I left the office, and
Alana has a high pain tolerance.
I have a pretty high pain tolerance. So I looked at my boss and I was like, I'm just in a lot of pain. And she's like, oh, you probably have COVID. And I said, I better not be. I've got to get on a plane on Wednesday and go to my friend's wedding.
Yeah, yep.
And she was like, oh, I hope not. You're going to have to test yourself when you go home. So driving home, I call Steven. I just tell him, I don't even think I called you.
You called me.
I did. Okay. Mm-hmm. And but at one point I had to pull over because I was in so much pain.
You called me, said you were coming home, you're in pain, and then you said, let me go. And then
I got to get home. Yeah. I had to pull over because I was in so much pain, I couldn't see straight. My eyes were watering so bad. Then I got home, we got through dinner, and I was in the bed.
Yeah.
Could not move. I was in so much pain, it was like I couldn't lay still. My whole body was moving. And I just was like, okay, I'm miscarrying.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
I hate to say this, but you know the drill.
Miscarriages are so painful.
Yes.
And it's also one of those things you don't vividly remember, but you remember how painful it was. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting the first one, I got so sick.
Yeah.
And so come to find out that next day, I was trying to work from home.
And we had called your doctor that first thing the next day.
Yeah.
We're like, okay.
And he was like, you're okay. It's probably a miscarriage. Let me know when
I'll squeeze you in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then I was in so much pain, I accidentally was unmuted from a Zoom call. Steven walked in and just said, how are you doing? Very quietly. And I said, I am in so much pain, I feel like I'm going to vomit everywhere. And I said that on a Zoom call.
On a Zoom call,
y'all.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I was mortified. I put it on mute. I hung it up. And then instantly Steven had to call my boss and was like, okay, here's the deal.
Yes. Here's the deal. So we had to take Alana to the ER. Went to the ER, and some of that ER visit, she had a ruptured cyst?
A ruptured hemocratic cyst was rupturing.
A hemocratic cyst
which means the cyst that's not filled with fluid, it's filled with blood.
Yes. And that was one eye-opener for Steven. But
wait. The hemocratic cyst was not determined at that ER visit. They still thought I was miscarrying.
No, that visit they thought you were still miscarrying.
And they just thought I was in a lot of pain. So they gave me a bag of fluid, some anti-nausea medicine, and some ibuprofen. Oh, and we got to pick up some hydrocodone, which is great for a fetus. I don't know if you know that.
You got some hydrocodone.
I'm not a doctor, but let's get real. Somebody's pregnant, let's not give them opioids.
Yeah, that was me being protective of you, that was the very first thing. All right, how
Steven's
is
in a
Alana?
sling in the ER.
I'm in a sling in the ER, and I'm like, okay, this is it's just traumatic for me because I remember, Briggs. I'm like, okay, Alana's was important. And then with everything going on with the Roe versus Wade, they had to do some special tests for Alana to make sure that the pregnancy wasn't in the fallopian tube.
Yes, it wasn't ectopic. So I was in so much pain and nothing was passing. By about almost 24 hours later, and I was like, Steven, something is wrong.
Yes.
And so that was my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Because in the state of Tennessee, the law relating to ectopic pregnancy is very
gray.
Very gray.
Yeah, very gray. Yeah.
And it depends on which hospital you're in. It depends on which doctor you've got. Depends on what insurance I've got. All these different things. And so we had recently seen an article that was a woman who had an ectopic pregnancy in the state of Tennessee.
She's in Nashville, and she had to be airlifted
to North Carolina.
Yes.
To get her life saved.
Yes.
And so the whole time we were just like, this cannot be ectopic. This cannot be ectopic. Meanwhile, I'm in so much pain. I've vomited a couple of times. Like, y'all, I'm talking so much pain.
So much pain.
I've birthed 2 kids. Like, I'm in so much pain at this point. And pretty much we leave, and they're like, it's not ectopic.
It's not ectopic.
You look
Here's
fine.
some medicine.
Keep on.
You should be okay.
You should be fine in a few days. Let us know when you start to pass.
A couple days go by?
So that was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then Saturday night.
So all this to be said, guys, we are planning on going to a wedding, and we are
in New England.
Plane tickets packed, ready to go.
I haven't seen this group of friends in 5 years.
Yes, and
I'm so excited.
Yes, and we realized Alana cannot.
I was like, I cannot get on a plane like this.
No.
And so Saturday, the pain was coming in and out. Like the severity of the pain was coming in and out, and I was pretty much on painkillers every 4 to 6 hours.
4 to 6 hours.
But as soon as it would wear off,
the pain would.
Oh, it would be crippling. And so we have these 2 friends that are doctors, and they're very compassionate. I was like, what do we do?
And they recommended, they said, all right, at the end of the day, you need to call your doctor again to see, hey, do we need to go back to the ER? So, long story short, we reach out to the nurses line, have the conversation. And this is the most triggering moment for me because they said, yeah, you could go to the ER because if it is a cyst and it's bleeding, she could have blood in her stomach. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And Alana had mentioned, feeling a little bloated, stomach. I'm like, what if she's bleeding out in her stomach right now? So that was like, okay. Mm-hmm. And in that moment, you're like, you don't want to go to the ER. You're like, all right.
Again.
We got to go back to the ER. So here we are on a Friday.
I was just there.
We're on a Friday night in the ER.
Luckily, our kids were already with their grandparents because we had planned to be out of town.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay. We're going to have them still go so I can heal. We can get a little bit of rest. We thought we were in the clear.
I'm in the clear.
We were not.
We're not.
And so it was an awful ER visit. I ended up having blood drawn again, and the woman pulled out the tube, and there was blood going everywhere.
Yes.
Y'all, it was so bad. I got up, and I went to the bathroom, and all of a sudden blood was dripping down my arm.
Yeah.
It was just a nightmare.
It was a nightmare.
And come to find out, that's when we confirmed it was a hemorrhagic cyst that was rupturing. Mm-hmm. It had not finished. We have had numerous people that we know and trust say that they could have done something about it on Wednesday or on Saturday if I was not pregnant in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
So it's just too close because it was on an ovary. It was just like all these things. And so there really wasn't any option for me as the breathing human.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into politics on this. We're just trying to give you as much information as we've gotten.
Yeah.
In our state, really because we think it's so important for people to hear it and really research their state.
Yeah.
So they don't go through some of the things that we had to go through.
We had to go through.
Yeah.
And so kind of fast forward, we are going through this pain. A couple days, maybe a week and a half go by, and unfortunately, you then actually start to miscarry.
Yep.
And again, it's one of those things where we thought we had kind of been there before.
Right. I was like, we've already been here once. Like,
we know this.
Why did it not pass the first time?
Why did it pass the first time? And me being, I'm going to be honest, a naive man, I was like, okay, she's doing her thing.
She knows what she's doing.
She knows what she's doing.
Well, mind you, I have had 2 miscarriages.
Yes.
I tend to be very, by myself when I'm in pain. Like, just don't bug me, don't touch me.
Yes.
I'll tell you what I need. Let me just deal with it. And I think a lot of people are like that. Like, especially when it's like not a cute thing happening.
It's definitely not a cute thing.
You know?
Yeah.
And Steven's used to that. Steven's used to Lana's in pain, don't bug her.
Yeah.
And she's going to tell you what she needs. And I did that for the first two as well. So Steven knows to keep his distance. So this one was just different.
Yeah.
And I had to take the medication for, if you've had a miscarriage or if you have questions about them, you can always reach out to us. But I had to take the medication to help the miscarriage pass and have my uterus contract, which I've had before. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't worried about it. Mm-hmm. That was the beginning of the end.
To say the least, the beginning and the end. So this happens. The medicine is going and doing what it's supposed to be doing. I guess
this is on a Saturday afternoon.
Saturday afternoon, it all starts, and then about that evening, we have put the kids to bed, and Alana's still in Steven's eyes. She's doing what.
So yes, but let's back up. So at dinner, I still had all the hormones from being pregnant, and I was so nauseous, you guys. I've never been this nauseous pregnant.
Yeah.
Ever. So this is pregnancy number 5. Never have been this nauseous.
Yeah.
So Steven makes me tater tots, and I'm like, can you just put a little salt on this? I eat all the tater tots. I'm happy as a clam. I'm laying down, falling asleep. Nope. Those came up instantly. Instantly. Yeah. And I'm on anti-nausea medication. On painkillers, the 9s. So then around 7:30 or so, I all of a sudden start bleeding so much.
Yes.
That we're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And then around
10
was the first time?
Yeah, around 10 o'clock, I'm laying in bed, and she is in the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, you know, still giving her privacy. And she's like, I think I'm going to pass out. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a lot. That's heavy. But let me...
Given I have now at this time vomited 3 times.
Vomited 3 times and been, passing and bleeding for a while. And so... I kid you not, guys. We're going through this, and
my head's in my hands.
No, this is the first time.
This is the first
time. Yeah, guys. And so, I'm in there, and Alana gets up from doing the thing. I'll just keep it like that, and she collapses in the bathroom, like falls to the floor. Head barely misses the toilet, and I am like, oh my goodness. I hate to sound morbid. Is this the end? Like. Here I am, like, trying to...
I don't think that's morbid in this situation, Stephen.
I mean, it's just... But, like, just saying it right now, you're just like... I'm here holding you, and I'm like, oh, my goodness. Like, trying to wake you up, not knowing, like, if it's just, like, an athlete passing out from being fatigued, or is this, like, more than that?
I love that you just referenced me as an athlete. Yes!
But you know what I'm saying, though. I don't know, so I'm like...
No, yeah, 100%.
I'm, like, smacking you and trying to wake you up.
Like, I was cold sweats the whole time because I was losing so much blood.
Yes.
But we just thought it was from me passing out.
Yes.
And like almost like flu-like symptoms.
Yes, exactly. And so
like,
Alana
what are you going to do? You're going to treat that.
I'm shaking her. Then
he's shaking me and whacking my face and
then I
breathing
try to give
into
her
my mouth.
CPR, and then she wakes up and pushes me off like,
just like rising, like, get off of me.
Stop kissing me. I'm like, well, hello, I'm glad you are alive.
And I'm glad your immediate response was to whack me.
Whack me. And like, you noticed I was trying to like,
but also like terrifying.
Terrifying, yeah.
Terrifying.
And so I get Alana up, take her back to the bedroom. Again, me and my lack of medical care experience.
But not even that. Like, I think it's so important in these scenarios to not water down what's happened.
Oh yeah,
and like true. You're like, it is morbid, but in that moment you're like, did my wife just die?
Yeah.
Is my wife unconscious? I've got 2 kids in the other room. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. I'm praying she just passed out. Like, she fainted.
She just fainted. And
she's not, like, totally unconscious.
Yes, and so she faints.
So Steven's response, what are you taught when, like, in sports, you're talking about athletics.
Yeah.
See somebody who faints because it's too hot outside or they've run themselves ragged. What do you need?
Gatorade.
Electrolytes and crackers.
Yes.
Right?
So I went to get
or somebody's sick.
Yeah, it's right. You're right.
Electrolytes and crackers.
Daryl Turner with Memphis would be,
he'd be so proud.
So proud of me. So get some Gatorade, crackers, and we think, okay, this is maybe good. And so she lays down.
I also am just like, get me to the toilet, get me to the bed, get me to the toilet, get me to the bed.
Yeah.
Like, that is my procedure. Mm-hmm. So that was at 10.
Yeah.
And then at what, 11?
11, yeah, about an
10:30,
hour and 15.
11.
11,
So
yeah.
we've had a few more trips to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But this time was a doozy.
Yeah,
So my hands were in my head was in my hands. Steven propped up my feet because my legs were shaking so bad. Because I'm really short, y'all. And I was losing so much blood at this point that it was like, it just was so much blood.
Yeah.
And for the women on the call, guys, you can pass forward this. So it was in from 7 to 12.
Yeah.
It was 11 overnight pads that I had gone through.
Yes.
Completely gone through.
Not
talking about the blood that I had passed straight to the toilet.
Yeah. And so you're sitting on the toilet, and I'm
heads
in
the
now
head
I'm,
and hands.
of course, I'm a little bit more tuned, so I'm like closer.
You're relatively close.
But still, within a blink of an eye, you pass out again. This time, you pass out face forward off the toilet, and you smack your head into the corner of the bathroom door, and you fracture your nose.
In between the door and the door frame.
You break your nose.
Well, right, but at the time we didn't know that I broke my nose.
Well,
I've cut my nose. Because I've lost so much blood, my blood is not clotting, and it just continues to bleed all over me. And, like, I'm also bleeding everywhere.
Yeah.
So Steven's like, okay, let me get her back up. And he said, okay, you're going to the ER.
You're going to the ER.
Like,
and so
we're going to the ER.
At that point, we call one of her good friends who's a nurse. We call her, tell her the rundown of what's going. And so we're like, could you please come over? Mind you, she knew what was going on at a high level, so she rushes over.
Yeah, she knew the deal. And I will also say, the reason we hadn't gone earlier is because I've been through 2 miscarriages, and I know that there is a point to when it starts to slow down.
It's a hurdle. It's a hump. You thought, yep.
In my head, I was like, if I can just get through this one part, it'll go away, and it'll be fine. Like, you know that there's only so much you can pass.
Yeah.
And so I was like, if I can just get through this, it'll be okay. Like, just get me back to the bed. I'm just going to lay back down. It's going to be fine. I'm going to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, we're not doing that. You're going to the ER. So she runs in. Her hands are freezing. It was like one of the few times that it was so cold in Memphis, like 20-something degrees.
It was pretty
outside.
cold that night, yeah.
And she starts to check my vitals. I'm like, don't touching me.
Yeah.
Because, yet again, I'm in pain. I don't want to be touched.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm going to check your vitals right now. And I was like, okay.
She checks your vitals. And at this point, we're still naive. We're like, okay, she's here. She can stay with the kids. And I'm going to drive Alana.
We're not naive. I've been unconscious twice. We don't know if it's from loss of blood or if it's from just vomiting and lack of nourishment. Yet again, I also have been so nauseous. I haven't been eating that much. Like, there's a lot of variables. We also don't want to call an ambulance if we don't have to. We have 2 kids. We don't want all that noise going on.
Yeah.
Everything like that. Also, when my friend came in, she accidentally set off the alarm. Somehow the kids didn't wake up.
Yep.
I've got no idea how, still to this day. And then Steven's on the phone with the doctor, just giving kind of updates. And
no, this one we called 911 because we were like, I can't.
No, wait, I'm getting dressed and you're getting everything together. And then I get up to get to the car and I pass out again.
Did you know that I sell makeup? Not only do I sell makeup, but the makeup that I sell is 3D makeup, which allows you to highlight and contour your face in a super simple compact. As a mom, I could not survive without my simplified routine. Not only that, but it's exactly what you need. Exactly when you need it, all in one spot. Go ahead and check out Alana Mizells on Instagram or alanamizells.com to learn more.
So it's more of like, it's a slow to the ground. My friend's catching me kind of as we go to the ground. And then I'm just like laying in her body. And she just kept saying, okay, keep talking to me. I'm about to annoy the S out of you.
Yeah.
Because you got to stay conscious right now. Like, you've got to stay conscious. She's also a nurse, so like she knows the signs. And the whole time she did not tell Steven anything.
Yeah.
And so Steven's on the phone with 911. The ambulance arrives to our house. And Steven answers the door.
Yeah, answer the door. They are very cordial. And also the fact that, you have these stories of 911. And it was from phone call to arrival, it was like less than 15 minutes. It was a very, stressful 15 minutes, but they came. She stayed on the phone. She walked me through everything.
To me, it was the longest 15 minutes. I just wanted to go to sleep.
I didn't know what was going on, but they were once the ambulance arrived, the guys were great. They were very respectful of, I told them we had kids. They came back. This whole time, our kids are still asleep. This whole time, our kids never woke up, didn't see the flashing lights. They didn't see the people walking through the house, which was very important. So, and of course,
they haven't seen me.
Haven't seen Alana. And so, with this being said, the way our house is situated, they couldn't bring a stretcher in, so they had to,
because we live on a hill.
We live on a hill, so they had to walk Alana to the ambulance.
One of the guys, I just remember one of the guys behind me and pretty much lifting me down every step.
Yeah.
He was like, "Are you okay to walk?" And then he's literally lifting me down each step.
Yeah. And so, kind of fast forward, Alana gets in. I get the house a little bit more situated before I have to take off. They call me to say, "Hey, we've taken her to XYZ hospital," and we get to the hospital. And again, another blessing is that we were able to go right into a room, and we get a nurse. He's a newer nurse. Very sweet, very sweet, so sweet. But he's newer, so he hasn't worked on his poker face yet. Right. And so Alana's sitting there.
And this is the first time I'm getting my blood pressure checked in the ER.
In the ER.
So it had been checked in the ambulance. It was low, very low. They gave me an IV. They didn't give me fluids because they were just trying to get me as fast as possible to the hospital. And that's really all I remember. I was going in and out of consciousness at this point.
Yes.
So then I'm in the room. I remember moving from the stretcher to the hospital bed, and they thought I was strong enough to move myself, and I moved myself, and I passed back out.
Yes.
And then the nurse, sweet nurse, comes in and he checks my blood pressure. I'm not awake.
Alana's not awake. I'm sitting there, and he checks her blood pressure. And
he's got a mask on.
He has a mask on, and let's say he's not white, but his face turned white. And he was like, oh, I just saw in his eyes. And that point, I just walked out the room. I was like, yep.
I hear Steven go, I'm going to walk out now.
I'm gone now. And turns out when he took Alana's blood pressure, it was what?
110/57.
110/57, i.e., is that like close to coding? Like that's
120/80 is ideal. So, it wasn't pretty.
It wasn't pretty
and
at all.
I hear Steven leave, and I was like, what's happening? And I sit up, and another nurse comes in, and she asked me to take my sweatshirt off, literally the sweatshirt I have on right now.
Yeah.
And then I'm like trying to take my other articles of clothing off, and this other nurse comes in.
This boss nurse comes in and was like, she's like, nope.
She literally just goes with scissors straight up my pants.
Yeah, straight up your pants, straight up your shirt. And just takes control, takes over the situation. And
so at that point, I had our regular room nurse. I had the nurse that cut my clothes. I had 2 doctors in there.
Yes.
And then I had 2 other nurses.
Yes.
No, 3.
3 other nurses.
Because I had another one that was putting in another IV.
How do they call a full tilt, a full press?
And it was within seconds. I don't know what color that is that they yelled.
Yes.
Luckily, also for my benefit, the ER was not popping that night.
No, it's not. And
it was pretty calm.
We had full attention, and through that, you got 2.
I got 2 bags of blood.
2 bags of blood.
So I had to get a blood transfusion because I had lost so much blood.
She had lost so much blood. So
I still was not clotting.
Yes, you were hemorrhaging at the end of the day.
Yes, I was hemorrhaging.
And so it was one of those things where it all happened so fast, and I'm sitting outside the ER, like seeing everything go by. I felt very at peace because I felt like my wife was being taken care of.
So here's the other thing that I think is super important. During this time, I had been to a different ER for the hemocratic cyst.
For both, yeah.
And the doctor I was going to did not give us the service that made us feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah.
I had an appointment in between. I had 2 other appointments in between, and this doctor chose to not check my chart before and didn't even remember me being in the ER. Yeah. And so this next time when I am miscarrying and everything's going on, Steven takes the opportunity. They've asked who my OB is, and he takes the opportunity to say, we're not calling that person.
No, we're not calling.
what was great is they took that and they said, yeah, we're not. Okay, got it. Which they didn't have to do.
No.
But there were plenty of OBs on staff, on call, and things like that they were like, no, we're going to take care of this woman, and she's going through enough. Like, let's not add to kind of the torture.
Yeah.
And I think that point is so important because women already are losing their voice. And any time that a partner or a friend in some of those emergency situations can speak up and be the voice that the woman actually needs in those moments is so important. Or choosing to go to a different doctor. Mm-hmm. Like, you have that right. You don't have to continue to go to the same OB because you've been there before. If you have a bad experience, I would say reflect on what your emotional state was. Maybe you think about where they're having a bad day, but ultimately it's your medical care and your voice needs to be heard.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. You're not crazy. Like, there's a doctor out there that is going to listen to you.
It's going to listen to you. And to kind of, not wrap up our side of this. So we were able to go through the ER. We were blessed that Alana was able to get the blood transfusion, end up staying in the hospital until the next afternoon, because we were there all night, to the next afternoon. And, the staff and the people there were very, very compassionate about what we were going through. And for me, it was an eye-opening experience because we as humans and millennials and Gen Z, we would call us, we water down pregnancies. We don't look into the entire landscape of what a woman's body goes through when it goes through a pregnancy or even to get pregnant.
Well, and I think it's also important to put in perspective a miscarriage, but also this miscarriage and what kind of happened. The nurse who we told you didn't have a very good poker face, after everything is kind of settled down, he then comes back in to explain what happened.
Yeah.
Which was also so kind and, hadn't really happened to us before. Most of the time, health professionals have kind of just carried on. All right, she's alive. We're going to keep it moving. But he then says, well, you almost coded. And he referenced the amount of blood I lost as if I was a gunshot victim.
Yeah.
And that is a terrifying resemblance, but it also kind of put into picture for us, like why and how I had gotten so sick so fast.
Yes.
But also like never diminished the amount of pain or the amount of agony I was in.
Yes, and I think something else that we learned through this, because I'll be honest with you, I have a voice. I have a voice that's louder than some, but also maybe not as loud as some. But going through this with you and us having healthcare, us having people in our circle to go through this, and now the different climate. I don't care, what side of the fence you are on. It's now changed in Tennessee. The political fence. It's changed in certain states. And one thing that we heard throughout the medical attention we were getting was that we see this a lot more now. We are seeing women that are going to other states and coming back to Tennessee and doing these things on their own in terms of...
Right, and having no doctoral follow-up.
Yes.
Nobody's checking to make sure it's been passed correctly. Yeah. We had the wherewithal and the ability to get to an ER.
Yes.
I had a friend that was a nurse that came over to take care of my kids. What if I was a single parent and having to go through that? There are so many things that have run through our head, just the reality of how much privilege we have.
Yeah.
Even in a state that is, honestly, women's lives are in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Literally, I could have died. Had I stayed home, I would be dead.
If you would have stayed home, you would have died. If I wasn't as in tuned with you and us as I am, I would have just let you do this on your own. And that's why kind of through all this experience, I'm learning so much more about the female reproductive system and about all those things that happened. But more
than I ever wanted.
More than I ever wanted. But more importantly, if I have buddies or guys listening to this, like, when you ask someone, are they expecting? You're asking them when they're going to get pregnant. That's
or even women.
Yeah.
Women that have not faced infertility or miscarriage or the struggle to get pregnant. The question, when are you going to have kids, or are you going to have another one, is just the worst question you can possibly ask.
It is the worst question because I had a
conversation. I would rather be asked, how much weight have you gained?
Yeah,
Facts.
I would 100% facts because
facts.
I was having a conversation with someone about this, and they say the thing that people don't think about when it comes to that question, when it comes to the emotional bandwidth, the financial bandwidth, the woman's body, the man, like all these things that come into play with that question, you just don't know. And me now living through this, like with Briggs and now with what we recently went through, it is a lot. And we nowadays just go through checking boxes of, oh, they're dating, oh, they're getting married, oh, they're going to, hate to say it, pop out some kids. It doesn't happen like that.
Well, not only that, but women are just taught to take it.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean that in the most clean way possible. But Roe vs. Wade just happens, and women are just supposed to deal with it. Like, they'll be fine. Women have done it for millions of years. Yeah, great. They've also died for millions of years.
Yes.
The reality is that it does happen. And I know far too many women who have experienced miscarriage and then have been asked when they're going to have kids, or have had to see their friends announce that they're having a child on social platforms. And genuinely, you are so thrilled for your friends when they announce that they're having a baby, but it doesn't lessen the pain or the severity. I don't want to have a third child, but that doesn't make it easier when somebody says that they're due in June.
Yeah.
It's a constant reminder. And then on top of that, if they've experienced infertility or are struggling with it or experience miscarriage during specific holidays, also remember that holiday will always remind them of the time that happened in their lives. It's just like if a loved one has passed away near Christmas, they have a literal reminder that everybody says Merry Christmas, and they're instantly going to think, that's when I lost my baby.
Yeah. And that's something that, I think a lot of people, like, I know in the African American culture, it's not talked about almost at all.
I don't think it's really talked about.
I mean,
I think that our generation is making it more comfortable to talk about. I think that social media has brought it to where it's one of the good things that's happened in social media, because people can share their voice without feeling like they're going to have a vulnerability hangover. Feel like they got hit by a truck, like they can share that they're going through something, and almost feel like they have this virtual support system. I've connected with so many women that have a similar story to mine, not the most recent story, but a similar pathway.
And that's why I, through this, we have a voice, and through our conversations, but my friend really challenged me to be able to, one day, we're still working through all of this, to have that conversation, because we in our circle have, through friends or connections, we have seen and heard of women dying trying to have a child, pumping their body full of hormones, chemicals to try to have a child. We've had friends that have had a child and then died very close to having that child through, whatever, post-pregnancy things that can happen. And that's just something I want to shed light to. Like, don't take pregnancies lightly. Like, you have to understand that it is a complete transformation of a woman and a man and a life.
And I'm reading a book right now. It's called In the Flow. I think every woman needs to read it. I think there are sections that men need to read. It is all about women's hormones. But there was actually a study done that looked at women's hormones in puberty and then after they become a mother. And the amount of neurotransmitters that change after they become a mother is more significant than when they go through puberty.
Wow.
But nobody talks about how the impact on that. Yeah. But when women and boys are going through puberty, it's like, oh, it's okay. They're just going through puberty.
Yeah.
But nobody says that.
No.
They just expect people to wake up 6 weeks later what do these maternity cares look like?
Yeah.
We're talking about companies that cover 50% of the maternity care for the first 6 weeks. That's trash.
Yeah.
That's trash. They're not going to cover you, but
6 weeks?
Right. I was barely cleared to drive after 6 weeks with my C-section. Yeah. You want me to come back and try to function and work? Mm-hmm. Not happening. It's not happening. And even then, if a woman does want to do that, that should be their choice. It shouldn't be the employer's choice.
Yeah.
And you look at some of these other countries, like in Europe, they get an entire year. That's not going to happen in the United States, but it doesn't need to be as bad as it is here. Yeah. And there are corporations that make billions of dollars, billions with a B, that do not provide maternity leave or paternity leave.
Yeah.
It is utterly mind-blowing to me.
It's mind-blowing. And this, of course, hits home with us so much now. And we wanted to tell you guys what we've been going through.
That and just shed light on the reality, challenge people to look up their current state that they're in, see what the rules and the laws are. You may not be going through it yourself, but let me tell you, our story has shed some serious light on some of our friends in the reality and the severity that the state of Tennessee currently is in. It's also super important to just support those around you. Mm-hmm. It's not your decision what they choose to do with their bodies. It's their own. And the best thing you can do is have empathy for them, because no matter what their decision is, it's not an easy one.
And have empathy for the quote-unquote perfect couple. Have empathy for that couple that you think, they're just
that appears perfect.
They're going to just have a child.
It's not.
And it's time for them. No, it's not. And a lot goes into it. I'm living it and learning it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
So if you guys are enjoying this, definitely leave us a review. Give us the feedback. If there's something you guys want us to talk about, reach out to us on our website at themizellsshow.com. There is a contact section. You can put it in there. We would love to hear about it. Or you can always go over to Instagram at The Mizells Show. Also, as always, don't forget to screenshot this episode and just add it to your stories and tag us on Instagram, on Facebook at The Mizells Show. Thanks, guys. Are you loving The Mizells Show? Well, we love you all. And did you know that you can have me and Steven talk to your team or a group of 25 of your friends? All it takes is 25 people showing up on either a Zoom call, a Facebook Live, or really anywhere. Hopefully in person sooner rather than later. But how do you get us? So all you have to do is email themizellsshow@gmail.com, or you can direct message us on Instagram at The Mizells Show.